time to forge the narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. This is episode 228. We are the Battle of Lost Souls podcast. I'm joined tonight by Ricky Addington.
Hello.
And Val Heffelfinger.
Why, hi there.
Thanks a lot for joining me again this week, guys.
Well,
my pleasure.
As always, it's an honor to be here.
I have a couple of special segments to air this week. I actually have a spot from Shapeways about talking about how to get your ideas from your head to the printer, the 3D printer that is. And I have Matthias Weeks from Adpeticon.
That means I have to listen to the whole show just so I can get to those interviews. So that's...
Well, Matthias, you heard him shortly after Adepticon last year. He's been on the show before. He's been on a couple times. He's one of the primary organizers of the event, and we talk about just how giant it is. I mean, it's probably going to be close to 4,000 people there.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's wall-to-wall gaming. I mean, it's a can't-miss event. At least I feel that way. And if that sounds like big and like intimidating and weird to you, it's not. Like when I say it's wall-to-wall gaming, there are hundreds of games being played and not just formal tournaments and stuff. There's open gaming, there's demos. It's one of the closest things to a real full-on convention that our hobby has.
Have you guys seen the video of, it's like this riding group, like they're like motorcycle tourists, and they were coming through Chicago, and they come and you could tell they really want to make fun of people when they first see everything going on at Adepticon. And then just the scale of it just starts to sort of overwhelm them, and they like really warm up to the whole idea. You can tell one guy's like, well, maybe I'll get something.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting some of this. I also talked to Andrew Thomas from Shapeways, who I had on the episode for Adepticon last year. And after that, we of course kept up and hung out at the LVO, and of course Shapeways had a presence at the LVO, and we talked about making some trophies for our upcoming tournament, the Louisville Slugga, coming up in June. And so he has helped me get the idea for some trophies from my head to the printer. And then we thought, wouldn't this be a cool segment to talk about other people out there that might be in the same situation that don't know where to start with 3D printing or Shapeways or whatever. And so I think it's a neat segment. It's going to be a series of segments that we do. And this is kind of the introductory one coming up later on in the show. That's
fantastic. Are you willing to share? Do you have any ideas percolating for your trophies?
Oh yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
A bust of your own face.
It is a skull with a melting candle on the top of it, sitting on a pile of dice. It's actually pretty cool. Ricky's seen it.
I've seen it. It's pretty cool.
It was on display at the LVO at their booth. Also, I think it will be a chase item coming up in this tournament season.
A good trophy to me is, I don't know. It's one of my favorite things. At Warzone Atlanta, they had these really cool, I guess they're
bolt pistols.
No, the bolt pistol's neat, but these were purity seals. There we go.
Oh, the purity seals. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're the only 40k thing I display are my purity seals that I picked up there.
I got the first year they had the chainswords, so I got a chainsword, and then I was really kind of hoping I was going to win one of those bolt pistols so that I would have a weapon for each arm. But
we've been pretty blessed with trophies. We normally try to have some good items that make it worth the trip. But that's the thing. How to keep this going? So anyway, we might talk about an answer.
Yeah, and that's
fantastic.
A thing that to me is kind of a struggle to come up with. For our trophy for our local event, we had one of our buddies who he's taking sculpting classes and pottery and stuff like that, and he hand sculpted us this big giant trophy that is amazing, but it's expensive, it's heavy, and heaven forbid we drop it before we get it to the person. But it's hard to find without having somebody make this stuff for you. It's hard to find trophies or awards or anything for 40k tournaments that fit the event, without just having a generic attaboy trophy.
Yeah, so here's your framed certificate or whatever. But
exactly.
And I'm not saying this is going to be the answer for everyone, but if you're at least curious about how to get into it or even how to approach it, that's what this segment's about. It's not about, it's about getting the idea in your head to something that can do something about it. Because we live in a world where that kind of stuff can happen now. We're going to see things like terrain, trophies, display boards. I mean, just stuff like that just come up. And anyway, you guys listen to it. I think you're going to enjoy this segment.
I'm looking forward to it.
Full on tournament prep over here, getting ready for Adepticon, again, which we also talk about in the upcoming segment. It's about a month away right now. And my team this year, we decided to take a brand new army. Well, it's not. We're taking Death Guard. which a lot of us have some Death Guard figures, but with the team composition, it doesn't shake out like a 1,000 point army. They have their own composition rules, and so it starts to lead you down a path of building a different army if you're building towards the format, which we're going to try to do, because of course we want to do as well as we possibly can.
Now that's a very all-round event, right?
Yes, it is. There's everything is a component. Sportsmanship, the hobby side, the display side. They have a separate category that's separate from the main awards called Spirit category. And then there's the battle point side of it, where you have to win out. You have to be good sports, at least, fun to play against. And you've got to bring a top caliber hobby army.
There's always things coming out of, those the team display boards are always very next level. I don't know. I guess everyone's got one team member who's road tripping to Chicago from everywhere on the continent. It's insane.
We got Miles, our man Miles Hamrick, who is driving our display board to us. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the kind of that. A lot of times I kind of feel targeted by, requirements for a display board, because I, have to travel pretty far no matter where I go for a big tournament. And, but nothing beats it too. So I'm of two minds on the matter.
It's particularly this event, to where it is just it's just a show out event, right? It's just try to be your best, bring your best, and do it all. Now you can win with less than, you don't have to have an epic display board and win. The year that I won it, I didn't have an epic display board. I had a great display board. We had great painted models, but we played well and we were great sports, and that carried us through the display side. And then the last year where we won 4th overall and ended up taking down the best sport award, we actually we made the display board to the specifications of what the maximum side UPS could ship non-faked.
That's fantastic. My question is, will you be cosplaying Death Guard at the same time?
That is not off the table yet.
Hangovers don't count, though, right? Does that count? Because I played Death Guard real well.
That is not off the table yet. We shall see. But so you mentioned having to travel. There are ways around that. So I highly suggest taking that route. And we could probably do a whole special segment on building to specifications for that specific need.
Tournament logistics. Tournament logistics should be our new segment on Forge the Narrative.
You've immediately pointed out that, my crabbiness on the topic is just a lack of imagination and trying to figure out a way around it.
Well, I had a very just detailed conversation with UPS, and I actually called FedEx and UPS, and I liked the responses that I got back from UPS. I don't have a preference. It could have been just the person that I was speaking to. But I went down very detailed. What's the max height? What's the max width? How is that the max box size? Do I need to actually build a 1/4 inch shorter on each side so it fits in the box? I mean, these are the kind of conversations I had with the person, and they gave me a bunch of answers that led to me building a display that fit in the box, shipped it there. And you could of course gone bigger, but then you would have gone in the freight category, and the freight category is dramatically more expensive, or at least it was for what I was talking for. And it wasn't that expensive. I mean, yes, it's a chunk of change to ship something that's 3 feet wide, and 2 feet tall and 2 feet deep, all the way across the country.
I've shipped a realm of battle boards, so I know exactly how to get to the last cubic centimeter before you're into the freight category.
So, and we built, again, it looked nice enough to get us a chunk of points and put us up to the top. We were a couple of battle points away from bringing down the gold again. So there are ways to do that, even if travel is one of your main concerns. But anyway, I'm not letting that diminish the event at all. It's the event brings out some of the absolute most epic things, an epic play and fun time. It's now the ATC is of course huge, 100 and something teams, 5-man teams. The Adepticon team is a 4-man format, but there were 130 teams. So what is that? 3,000 people?
But it's also just one event. And also Adepticon, how many years has it been going on now? 16,
I believe now.
That's insane. It was an independent event before those really existed, really then.
Well, it came right in there. It was one of the first major independent events. It just blew up as soon as that vacuum was there. Adepticon was we're here with these signature events, And I mean, again, not the team tournament is one of the absolute best tournaments in the land, because of everything that's involved in it. And it's a sheer pleasure to participate in. And I'm really looking forward to it this year also. But where I was going with that is I'm painting a bunch of stuff. And I'm painting part of the army. Another team member is painting part of the army. I think I've got the easier part. I'm painting like 5 tanks and a bunch of demon princes.
So how much of the camo shade have you poured out onto those tanks at this point?
There's been a fair amount of camo shade.
When are they just going to let us buy it by, like, the bucket?
I checked today to make sure it was still in stock. I was hoping we'd ping it, But it is that good. I will say, though, that I painted one of the Plague Burst crawlers, and I painted it in a very clean, Nurgly way. And I'm like, what am I doing? I have the capacity to weather the crap out of a tank. I know I have the technology. Let's get to work. So I took a refurbished Sakaran tank. It's a buddy, again, we're all new stuff, right? Yeah, we're building all new stuff. A friend of mine had a Red Scorpions Sakaran tank, and I'm like, I need that tank.
And you've Nurgled a Sakaran tank?
Completely turned it Nurgle, yeah. I mean, I posted this up on Twitter, but it's like, how do you know you've gone far enough with weathering?
Oh, I'm checking this out right now.
Yeah. Well, it's and then I've got another one to do. Not to give the whole list away. It's a bunch of tanks and a bunch of demons. You know what you do, right? But I've got it up to a stage that I'm happy with. To when I start doing the next one, I'll then get the next one up to that stage, and then get to work on some more weathering. Like, I want to go in and bring a little extra color and detail and stuff. But that's using the same weathering techniques that I used on the AdMech stuff that I did.
Weathering is like my favorite part of working on vehicles. And I guess you can really go crazy with it with Nurgle, because it's not just like, oh, here's some dirt and grime. It's like also pus on a tank.
Well,
okay,
we talk about it's the textures, right? So even that pus could be a texture. It's just all areas of interest and detail. And some of the yellow from the Red Scorpions I actually left on the tank, and so it looked like it'd be coming out as like a paint job that used to exist, kind of thing on that.
Right, yeah.
It's use the hairspray technique on this guy?
It's not hairspray. I use the heavy chipping fluid from AK Interactive.
Similar concept.
Similar, but yeah, you have to use a gel hairspray. It's the gel. The gel separates the. We've talked about this on a finishing move segment before, but it creates that barrier between the sealed in splotchy colors or whatever, and then you put the top color on it, and then wet a toothbrush or something, and then chip away at it to get to your desired effect, and then you got to reseal it so it locks in all that texture and detail and doesn't chip away anymore as when you're starting to add more colors.
You've done a good job on a Nurgle piece when you feel like you can smell what this thing smells like.
Did you find it? Are you looking at it?
Oh, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's.
You know what you need to do, Paul? What is the stuff they put in? What was the old Masters of the Universe? Was it Stinkor? What did they put in the plastic for Stinkor? And you need to just put some of that inside your Nurgle tanks.
Oh, that'd be funny. I need to research that.
That would just really sell it. I mean, I would give you more points on a painting rubric if it stunk to high heaven like that.
I don't know if that's one of the boxes. I'll try and rob you for that.
Does it smell like rotten meat? Yes. 2 points.
So the demon someone on the team thought of like, why don't we have demon princes like pattern after the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? And I'm like, I'm not sure how that fits this theme, but why not? It's a cool idea. But how do you make it Nurgly, right? So now I got all trying to figure out a way to make Nurgle demon princes look like the 4 horsemen. All in their own Nurgle way.
That's one of them?
Yeah, that's one.
There you go. Yeah. The others don't make much sense, I guess. But yeah.
Well, I'm doing it. One of them is
4 versions of 1 horseman of the apocalypse.
Well, no. I thought, how do we do this? Okay, well, why don't I make war like insectoid? So it looks more like, a venomous insect. Real aggressive with aggressive colors, but still poisonous in that whole toxin vein. And then famine and death are a little easier. They fit more into the zone there.
Yeah, or you could do sort of the effect of each one of those things. So you could have a emaciated person for famine. Maybe war is someone who's like really goopy and exploded and beat up. Just spitballing here.
No, any idea is good, but it's like I wanted to make sure it was distinctly not one of the other Chaos Gods.
Got it.
So that's the aim. We'll see how it all comes out. But this has been a really cool hobby project. And while I'm doing this, I'm getting my Blood Angels up because I was borrowing our man Chris Morgan's Fire Raptor for the LVO. I did not have mine put together. So I have built a Fire Raptor, and it's got the base coat on it at this point in time. I'm getting it ready again for singles competition and what have you. And you hear all these horror stories about Fire Raptors, how they don't go together as well as you might hope that they would go together. And let me tell you that those stories are true.
I was wondering where you're going with this.
Right. Well, okay, they're true to a point, all right? So the Fire Raptor is an expensive model, and it's something you just wish that you could just like wave a wand and it just all goes together. But it's part resin pieces, part plastic pieces, and I think anytime you're mixing mediums, then you kind of run into a potential trouble spot.
It's got ball turrets in it,
which look awesome.
Yes. Also tricky though.
They're tricky. They're pressure fit in there. Like you don't even have to put them in there until you've got it all painted. Yeah, the piece that holds them in there is a resin piece. It's like a resin C. It's like a C. And you slide it into a clip that you make, like a slot that you make. You glue on a piece of resin to the ball turret, and that leaves a space for the C ring. I don't even know what to call it. I'm going to call it a C-ring, to go in there. And then you pressure fit it onto the little nubs that are inside the main body. And that's how it sits and free floats in there.
Fascinating. I've always wanted to set up flyers on like a pivot so that you can do like pitch and yaw with them on the flyer base.
Yeah.
But that's about maybe I need to adopt the C-Tech.
I don't know that I would want to be yawning and pivoting this heavy resin.
I think it's probably. What are this? They're probably. I mean, they're 5 pounds almost. I mean, they're not light.
I was thinking more, like a DACA-jet.
Got it.
Maybe
yeah,
not.
okay.
Maybe not like a 2-pound brick of resin. Might not work well.
Yeah, that you just tense up anytime anybody goes anywhere near it.
There's
crash and burn every time.
There's a company that makes these cool flight stands. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. It's Corsec Engineering. They make these really cool rods. They're called Omni stands, and he makes acrylic bases with a little basically a screw hole in it, and then the stands they're rods that you can get in varying lengths, and they're threaded on.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, and he's got some that telescope out, so like you could actually like raise your stuff up and lower it, and then he's got some that like will pivot and stuff too. I don't think any of them are strong enough to hold a Fire Raptor, but the rods are. But the pivot, I don't think would be able to hold that kind of weight. But there's stuff out there to do that.
So
Ricky, I am looking at this right now. I think we're onto something, pal.
There you go. And I swear by the Omni stand mounts. Like I've used those on a bunch of my models. If you ever need some good flight stands that you don't want to snap like the plastic ones, I mean, these things are made of metal, so they're not going anywhere. They're great.
That's sweet, especially for travel with a lot of things. I use it's the Australian company, like Back to Basics, where they have those cool acrylic and magnet mounts, and they sell the magnets with them. That's what I use for my Eldar jet bikes.
Oh, cool. Oh yeah. I've seen those. Where you just they come right off. So yeah.
Yeah, they just come right off. But talking about the Fire Raptor, so I'm having the same problems that everyone else claims that they have. I mean, so I know that this is absolutely true. That it's just a kind of a struggle to get everything to line up right. So then I remember that I have a heat gun. This is the same heat gun that I used for my AdMech stuff when I was wanting to. I forget what they're called. It's the 30K AdMech guys that have all the tentacles that come off the main body. They look like those things from the Matrix.
I don't remember what they're called. I remember when you were putting them together because I think we had this conversation about.
It's like they look like they have like jazz hands. They're all like going off at weird angles or whatever. But you glue them in there, and then I just heated them up a little bit, bent them, and then you just let them dry there. I blow on them a little bit. Like there's all the different kind of techniques. Like I've seen some people that have like a bucket of water next to them, and when they get the thing posed where they want, they dunk in water. If you don't, I went to, I've had this thing for a while for like all kind of projects, but, like Harbor Freight, you get a heat gun for $12.
Only in America.
It doesn't like belch hot fire either. I'm not sure that I would use this in any industrial capacity. I don't know that it has the capability of doing whatever normal people use a heat gun for. I don't know.
Well, usually, doing electrical work, you don't need a ton of heat for that for your your shrink wrap
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe your shrink wrap
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
stuff. Whatever. I'm sure it worked. Maybe it has some use, but I know it definitely heats up resin enough to where I'm able to bend it. So I did struggle with the Raptor for maybe like 5 minutes. And I remember, like, what am I doing? I'm just wasting time. And then as soon as I busted out that, when you use a heat gun, you don't want to, like, just point it right at the thing and pull the trigger and just sit it there. Now,
I'm just imagining you with like a welder's mask, like some big leather protective gloves, maybe like a mad scientist, pair of tongs, just like edging your way with the fire raptor towards this exhaust pipe.
I'm hanging on to it, probably unsafely. I did put on my respirator just in case. I don't even know if that's necessary, but I figure.
So you didn't light your cigarette off of it first before you cavalierly did this?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
So, you want to keep the heat gun moving, I think, to heat it from lots of different angles. And then I might have had the heat on there for 45 seconds to a minute. Obviously, anybody's experience may vary. And then it slid right into place, and I put a little running air across it, and fit perfectly. I mean, that was it. That was the hardest part, was getting the main body, the two sides of the main body to line up correctly. And I mean, again, it took 5 minutes of struggling when I didn't need to. I should have just broken out the heat gun immediately, and then 2 minutes with the heat gun, and then I built the rest of the thing seamlessly, effortlessly.
I love those moments where you're doing something that's just high risk, high reward, and it just clicks in there or just smooths in there real perfectly. And you can just feel like ground control going wild. People are taking their headsets off.
Yeah, I think I think some people are turned off of resin models because of that, because like, oh, that's warped. Now I have to deal with it. But me, that's one of my favorite things. As weird as that is about dealing with resin models, is the fact that I can just throw some heat to it and put it where I need it to be. With a Fire Raptor or Storm Eagle or something like that, it is a little more frustrating, because it's like, well, this piece should be flat. It should have came to me flat, but it's an easy fix. With Imperial Knights and stuff, with my Cerastus Knights, especially any of the ones that have those like ammo belts that go to the back of the Imperial Knight, like those, I just use a hairdryer. I don't even use my heat gun, because I've heard where if you have real fine detail, if you're not careful, if you get it too hot, you can actually lose that detail out of a model. It'll start to melt the resin. But so you can get away with a hairdryer, but
normal run of the mill Conair.
Yeah. I did it in a hotel one time. I mean, what's the one thing every hotel has is a hairdryer. So if you're putting a model together the night before a tournament, you got the hairdryer right there. So you can use a hairdryer on resin. It will take a little longer to do, but I feel like you got a little more control over it. But I find it actually really fun and gratifying to when you straighten out that crooked piece of resin. But like you said, even heat all around it. Take your time, even heat, and don't rush it, because there's that point when you're heating resin where it will start to bend, but it's not heated all the way through, so it'll start to bend, and then it can potentially crack or just snap. So you shouldn't ever force resin when you're heating it, especially big pieces that take a long time to get the heat all the way to the center of that piece. You should be able to just let it do itself. Like,
keep that heat moving.
Yeah, keep the heat on it. Keep the heat even, and let the model get warm enough to become pliable before you try to do anything. Because if you try to rush that, you're going to end up with something you are not going to enjoy fixing.
Well, I'm happy with this thing went together like a charm after that one little. It's not even an incident. It was just a eureka moment. Like, I've got this. Why not do it? And then it's got some red on it. And I started line washing it just in the recesses with some sepia today. And that takes a while. There's a lot of lines on that thing.
Yeah. It's quite a few.
There's a great, I think it's Tamiya product, panel liner. Have you ever used that?
No, have not.
It's oil based, so you need to have your mineral spirits out, but you basically put a gloss coat down. You seal the model, and then you just touch the panel line, and it just shoots like Quicksilver through.
I've worked with that stuff before too. It's sometimes it's just breaks the stride of switching to a different product, to an enamel and roll based product. Yeah, I use that a lot in the weathering process.
For doing stuff like Tau suits, for I don't know, like big pieces like this, though, I think at the end of the day, very satisfying to watch that line just explode
when you just
down the line of the model.
Tip it with the thing.
Bam! It's like off like a rocket. And but yeah, to me, I think it actually is ultimately a time saver and allows you to just sort of do it at the end.
Gundam
and there's a couple
pins.
Different shades too. It's a great product.
Gundam pins that people use also.
Gundam pen.
Yeah, there's Gundam markers, paint markers that are specifically designed to go with the Gundam models, but you can get a fine tip and it just draws like paint right in those micron pins. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
definitely.
what I used. Yeah.
So before I discovered the bounty of the panel liner, I was trying to use those micron pens, but I was using it actually this is when I first realized that some of the Forge World stuff is not nearly as precise as the CAD design injection plastic models I'm used to, because it was like one of those little Tau Tetras, and some of the panel lines are a millimeter thick, some of them are 2 millimeters down, and so I had all these really janky lines on my on my Tau Tetras.
I had the same problem with the Arvarna because I was doing the same technique. Let me ask you, I pulled this up online though. So it's Tamiya panel line accent color, black, brown, and gray. And I'm looking at the picture. You said you've used this, right? The brush with it, does that have like a reservoir up above it?
I could pull it out of my drawer, but yeah, no, it's just sort of the same way as like a lot of plastic cement has like a built-in brush. So does that, and you just sort of just touch like one little corner of the brush, and basically it just shoots through all the cracks. It's really cool.
Okay, yeah,
let me just pull it up.
Yeah, the way I was looking at the picture, it looked almost like the end of the brush, like up in the brush handle or something. It looks like there was like a reservoir in it or something.
Yeah, looking at it now, no, I think you just got some wishful thinking. Our friends at Tamiya are very innovative, but not that innovative.
Not that innovative. Okay, yeah. All right.
And actually, it's a very fine tip brush in this thing. And if you do it for a really long time in one session, you're going to be feeling pretty groovy.
Yeah. So
those
some
fumes.
vapor coming off. Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm more the type of guy who's lighting a cigarette off of his heat gun. I like the extreme hobby.
There you go.
Yeah, like an open flame, some 200 proof booze, moonshine.
That's right. That's what it. Well, you gotta be able to clean your brushes after you're using this stuff.
Hey, yeah. If there's anything that's going to do it, it is that. I have enjoyed like moving between these different hobby projects, and I caught myself like I had to slow down. Like I feel like I was kind of distracted and jumping between things too quickly. So I just took a deep breath, finished something. Like I was trying to do a couple of things at once and finished one thing and then moved on to the next one. And I felt much more at peace. And I'm now enjoying a little bit more jumping between these various projects. I'm all spread out across my hobby area. I got hobby going on in 3 different areas. And if I ever hope to play a test game coming up, I've got to get this under control.
I've kind of hit that same stride lately because I'm surrounded by Dark Angels, Custodes, my Titan, my nephew's army, and then my buddy who I just talked to play in 40k. I'm touching up some stuff for him, and it's a million things. But lately I've just decided I want to work on what I want to work on that day instead of trying to knock out some tournament army to get it ready for something. I feel like my hobby ADD. I enjoy it more when I do that, like what I want to work on that day instead of just trying to find one thing and treating it like a job.
For me, it's all about that next tournament list, and that's pretty much the only thing that ever gets me going. Although, sadly,
deadlines though, man, it's cool.
Deadlines are like they're pretty now that hobby requirements are everywhere again, which is a fantastic thing. It really motivates you to actually sit down, make the time, and do it, and then that actually feeds itself too. You kind of get into the habit. Like maybe you guys have more of a regular hobby time. It's your wind down or whatever. For me, it's kind of a desperation mode. But like tonight, I was sadly packing up the boys. They're not going to probably come out of their boxes until the teams are reporting for training camp in the summer again. But I was building a Hive Tyrant tonight. I'm looking forward to getting him based with an airbrush and ready for the tournament on Saturday.
Very nice. And which tournament is that? Is that the Bari Bash?
Oh, that's the Berry Bash. The Berry Bash. Yes, it's really shaping up to be pretty impressive. We've actually drawn even some Yankee. Well, I don't want to say Yankees. I got to be careful. Americans such as yourselves are coming north of the border. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I can't wait to hear that, guys. You got to come back on to give us a recap of that.
I'd be more than thrilled to do so. Yeah, it's going to be a wild one. It's a major. Like, we don't, despite the fact that, Toronto, the GTA or the Toronto area is, as big an urban center as there are in North America. We just don't have these big events very often. So kudos to Ascari, who's got this thing. He's built it up very diligently over the years, and I think he's finally hit that sort of major size tipping point. It's at a golf club. It's going to be a really nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, and wintertime in Canada. What else are they doing? Well, okay, they're willing to bring in some 40k nerds to play some toys over the weekend. I'm really happy about that. So I don't know. I can't wait. I'm really excited.
That's sweet, man. And then talking about hobby and stuff, like I've got many hobby accountability people out there helping me. Like, they're sending me pictures of their stuff. I'm sending them pictures of my stuff, and it just helps feed that, get to the next step. So I'd highly encourage that if you're trying to make deadlines and struggling, or just want to whatever, it's just keeping that spirit alive.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said too of the satisfaction of completing something. I think that's one of the great rewards of doing a tangible game like 40k, is that you put in the time and you have this piece that you made, or you put a little bit of artistic effort into, and you have that that you get to keep it. So I don't know. I think that's a really great part of it. But sometimes when you're out of that rhythm, you kind of forget about the good feels that you get when you complete a project.
Awesome, man. Well, let's take a break. We'll come back in and have the segment with Shapeways with Andrew Thomas, and then we'll come back after that and have the segment with Matthias Weeks, and then we'll come back to us and wrap up the show.
Sounds great.
See y'all guys in a minute.
Forged Narrative is brought to you by Dicehead.com. www.dicehead.com. Games, hobby, supplies, and comics. They have it all.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special segment of Forged Narrative. My name is Paul, and I'm joined today by Andrew Thomas.
Hello.
Andrew, man, thanks for joining me.
Of course, thank you.
You're from Shapeways.
Yes, yeah, I am. I'm a community manager at Shapeways.
Yes, but you have also an artistic background, design background. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
I'm a community manager for Shapeways. We're a 3D printing service and marketplace, but we're a place where anyone can come and design really sweet stuff and 3D print it for themselves or for others. So my background, I studied sculpture in college. And when I left, I needed to find a job. And so
one of those pesky things.
One of those, yeah. I didn't really think about that while I was in school. But yeah, I have I guess you'd say like a classical, academic background in art. And then I taught myself 3D design. I was interested in, making video games or movies or sort of anything that I could use my skills. And I've always liked computers. And I just sort of saw it as being a faster way of making sculpture and making the things I was interested in. So I picked that up, and then I joined Shapeways about 4.5 years ago.
All right. So how we started talking about this is that I was looking to get some things designed for me, just specifically trophies for tournaments.
Yep.
And I know nothing about that stuff at all. It's just it's no background in any kind of artistic design or even any kind of CAD or anything. I just knew I wanted something. And I thought it might be cool to kind of talk about the journey of someone who just had an idea and wanted to take advantage of something like this, and how we went about doing it, and how someone can go about doing it.
Yeah. And I think an idea is really the only thing that you absolutely need. And that's,
good. I got plenty of those. Short on talent, long on ideas is what I've got. But so, for instance, what we're talking about trophies for a tournament I've got coming up here, the Louisville Slugger. That's the tournament coming up in June. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have some neat original trophies themed around the event and with a little bit of FTN flair and stuff on it. But that's it. Like, I didn't know what else to do at all. But met you at Adepticon last year. Adepticon's coming up this year. Can't wait for that too. I may even have another spot about Adepticon on this show here. But started just talking about what could be done. But again, knowing nothing. And if someone's out there that's like me in my similar situation, how do they go about doing it?
Yep.
Well, let's talk about both ways. What if someone knows what to do?
What if someone knows what to do?
What if someone actually knows how to do the design part of it? What do they need to get going? And then let's talk about what someone who has no idea what to do, how they would start going.
Sure. So if you know some design software, if you've done it before, you learned it in school, you learned it on the job, it was a fun thing that you wanted to pick up. You really just need to know a little bit about the material that you want to print in. So Shapeways has 60 different materials and finishes, and they range from different types of 60 different ones. Yeah.
60, got it.
60, yeah. And that includes different colors of plastics. So our strong and flexible plastic, it's a laser sintered nylon, which really just means it's a kind of like a high quality, strong, durable nylon. We do that in a whole bunch of different colors, different levels of polish. And then we have some higher detail plastics, like our frosted ultra detail. And then we have some cooler stuff like steel, gold, silver, bronze, brass, more like jewelry material. We even have porcelain,
like metal, like actual metal,
like real. Oh yeah, real. You can weld it if you wanted to. Wow. Yeah, it's all legit. And so they come from all sorts of different processes, but the overall idea is that we're trying to give people access to materials that you just wouldn't be able to get either on your own home printer or locally or something like that. We want to give high quality consumer grade fun materials that in a way that's accessible.
I got you. So you have to design something for the media that you'll be printing in.
Yep. Yeah. And it depends on what it is. But the real idea is that you want to know that all of the pieces that you're making on your model are thick enough, that they're going to be strong enough, that they'll be able to withstand going from being in a computer to in the real world. And so we have a bunch of really helpful pages set up in our material portfolio, and we explain all of the guidelines right there out in the open. So
that's on the Shapeways website?
That's on the Shapeways website.
Yeah,
it's just shapeways.com.
I'm just curious. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's shapeways.com/materials.
Okay.
And so you'll see everything there. We'll give you some general ideas on guidelines for what they're designed for, and then from there you can go crazy. You can make whatever you want.
What are the size restrictions? Like what you say, whatever you want. I'm going to print a mannequin or like a full human being mannequin.
I have. So the max size I have memorized because people like to ask this question.
Yep.
It is 650 by 550 by 350 millimeters. So sort of imagine a box that's that size. And if you're not someone who's super fluent in metric system,
that's pull out my conversion. What is that?
That's like that's probably yourself scrunched up into the smallest ball you can get into.
Okay, all right.
It's like half a bathtub.
Okay. I mean, that's actually pretty large, I guess. I mean, there are things you could, I guess, realistically make. Whatever. If you're designing it, your software will tell you how big your thing is or whatever spec, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And when you upload to Shapeways, we'll give you all these really useful tools to show you how big it is, point out any potential problems, if there's weak points, disconnected parts, anything like that.
Now, a lot of people have like stores set up, but you don't have to do that. You can just submit your thing and it will be printed. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, you can order for yourself. Everything is by default private, by default not for sale. We want to respect everyone's privacy. So yeah, you can upload and order away.
That's pretty neat. I'm sure you've gotten some creative things that come through the private mode.
It's kind of amazing. We see a lot of random stuff. It's literally just a whole factory of unique different things being made all the time.
I mean, do you see something that's more common than not, or is it really a wide range of things? I mean, are people getting copy pots printed or whatever? I mean, what is...
Yeah, I mean, it depends a little bit on the material. So, like the frosted ultra detail plastic that I was talking about, that's really popular for miniatures. That's popular for, bits. That's popular for small pieces of art, things that need to be really detailed. And then that strong and flexible plastic is everything. So it's artwork, it's prototypes, it's components of some kind of mechanical part that you would never identify. It's full statues. And anything you can imagine.
That's pretty neat. What file types do you guys accept? Or, I mean, I'm sure this is all spec'd out on the thing, but if someone's like driving in the car and thinking about, could I do this when I get home? Is there a specific file type that you prefer?
STL is probably the most common that almost every piece of software can export to. STL OBJ is pretty popular. If you need to do color, there's a file type called Burml or WRL that's really popular, and that will let you do color, and we can print full color things with a material called full color sandstone. So it doesn't even need to be painted or anything like that. It'll come out looking like a real object.
Have you seen a lot of cosplayers and stuff get more involved and use your service?
Totally. Yeah, we actually have. There's a guy named Wayne who works at our factory in Eindhoven, in the Netherlands, and he makes Iron Man suits. And so he's made, and they have like jets and everything. They spray smoke out and all kinds of stuff like that. So he prints a lot of the mechanical components for that with us. Some of the things that would be very hard to make by hand. There's also a woman named Melissa Ng. She goes by Loom Cluster, and she does a lot of really cool full suits of armor. They're intricately detailed. They're really beautiful. You should Google her if you're listening to that. So yeah, totally. A lot of cosplay, props.
I know I'm jumping around. I'm just trying to explore the breadth of stuff that people are actively using this for right now. It's not like, wouldn't it be cool if people did this? This is what's happening right now.
This is happening right now. Yeah, this is going through our factory every day. It's cool. It's like I don't even call it like a random object generator because it's people making things, but there's just like an unlimited variety of things that are brand new. They've never existed before that are going through our factory.
Well, I think like the Hero Forge site, right? Aren't you guys the back end order fulfillment for those guys?
We are, yeah. So they built a simple platform, like a video game style character creator. A lot of people use it for D&D and different role playing games. And they just connected to our API and send orders right through us, and we print it and ship it back out.
Do other folks take advantage of that? I mean, that since it exists, I'm sure other people are, but
yeah, totally. That's there's a bunch of different companies. Another one's called Other. I might blank on the names of everyone who's using API.
This is not a quiz. This is not going to be scored here. I just didn't know there was like an open API that people could build this type of interface for.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So if you're at that point as a business and you have the coding chops, that's absolutely something that you can do. We have a whole developers page for people that want to plug into our system and automate the whole ordering process.
So you've now, if you've got some background designing, what is you said the STL file?
Yep.
That allegedly lots of things can export to.
I've
never heard of it.
Yeah.
There's no knowledge over here, no talent over here.
There's two very kind of popular, let's say camps of 3D design software. One would be called CAD, like CAD CAM. That's what a lot of industrial engineering tools use. So SolidWorks is probably the most popular one. And most of those programs can export to STL. The other type is surface modeling software. So that's like Maya or Blender or ZBrush. And that's what you would make like video game characters or special effects things with. And that's what 3D printing software kind of prefers, is those surface-based models, because they're really, I guess you'd say, like really light. They're just the edges of an object, and it's really easy for the printer to understand. So there definitely is a program out there that can export to STL or OBJ or something that's really popular. And if you can't find something, there's a bunch of free tools out there that could import one and export to the other.
That's pretty neat. So you also mentioned the 60 different materials. Now, is it also, do you have to select what your printing refinement is. Because I've seen some 3D printed stuff that's got like the edges and the lines and stuff where it's a bit rough. And then I've seen some that's like smooth as a baby's bottom. And I have to just assume that that's either on a higher quality printer or a different material. Like, what do you suggest is good enough? Like, what is the middle of the road? I would have to try hard to figure out this is 3D printed type material.
Yeah, so I think the lines that you're talking about are really common with the desk printers that a lot of people own. I have one in my apartment. I love it. It's really good for prototyping. And they usually use one of two different materials, either ABS, which is like what Legos use, or PLA, which is what like red solar cups are made of. And they're both good materials, but because of the way that the printer works, it's sort of like a giant robotic glue gun dispenser. Those lines are going to be really transparent because it's just like tubes of hot plastic being laid down on top of each other. Versus our strong and flexible plastic, that's with a laser that's hitting a bed of nylon powder. And the laser can get around like 100 times more accurate. And because it's actually melting both materials together, you're not going to see those lines nearly as strongly. Is
that described on the website when you're choosing your material?
That is, yeah. That's the first material. So it's anything that's called strong and flexible. That's that material. I'd say that's the kind of like most common, really good choice. If it's a prototype or if you just want something in general, I would go with that. It has, I guess you'd say, like a bit of a grainy texture to it. So depending on the size of what you're making, that grain might make a difference in the detail that you're going for. But you can polish it. We offer polished versions, and yeah, it shines up, or polishes nice. Like I wouldn't say it's shiny. It's more like let's say like a bone smooth type of feel to it.
I get you. Now on the complete other side, on the my level of knowledge about this kind of stuff. Now you and I work together, and you of course know exactly what the requirements are.
Yep.
How do you explain to someone like me to go and find someone to make a design for them? What do they need to know? What do they need to tell the designer that the requirements are for the file or to get it done or whatever?
Yep. So I think the first thing you want to do is you could come to Shapeways. We have a designer for hire program. You can find that on the sidebar if you're looking for someone to hire. And you just look for a designer who's making work that looks similar to what you're looking for. And then you reach out and you start talking to them. And we have a ton of really experienced designers on the website who are professional to maybe different degrees, but there's a lot of just very, very talented people out there.
But they work with Shapeways a lot. They work with the tool and know what to expect.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so for me, when I'm working with a client or, someone, I just want to talk to them as much as I can about what they're looking for. Get a sense of their expectations, see some pictures. I think that was the thing that I asked you for a lot is like, show me a picture, like give me a drawing, show me something that's similar to what you're imagining.
Those first drawings were very crude.
But they were super helpful, right? Like I thought they were really good, and I totally got a sense of like, okay, this is what you're going for, and I think that the more of that kind of like back and forth and the more visual feedback that you can give to someone, especially an artist, if you're going for something that's aesthetically driven, that is super helpful.
I get it, but I think finding those people that have the experience working with Shapeways might be beneficial, but they don't always have that. I mean, there's lots of services out there like Fiverr or other type of for hire businesses that it might be a mixed bag of what you're getting into. So I guess having an idea of what type of files, the design. I mean, how complicated can things be? And that's something we didn't touch on. Like, really, how complicated can the design be for what is that middle of the road printing material?
I mean, the really nice thing about that strong and flexible material is that it can actually be, I'd almost say, like the most complex because of it's sort of the amount of freedom that it gives you. Because when it is that's that bed of powder, and because there's a laser going around melting the powder together, the unused powder that's around the rest of it is supporting what's being printed. And so when you pull it out, it's like a big block just of caked together powder. And that, you literally dig it out, you excavate it, the printed object from the rest of the powder that got, left in, powder form. I'm using the word powder a lot. And that supports everything else. So
you can get pretty detailed.
So you can get pretty detailed. You could have moving parts. You could have overhangs. You can have things that are connected. You can get away with a lot. It's really good. It's very forgiving.
That's neat. And then also during our back and forth process, you mentioned that having an object that could be hollow might make it easier to print, at least on the overall time and the cost and stuff like that. I mean, those are things that I never would have thought of without going through the whole process.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the nice things about that material too is that because you're printing with a powder, you're not making something with like infill or something like that. We can reclaim all of that extra powder. We can even pack other objects inside, like nest them, kind of like Russian doll, what do you call them? Russian stacking doll.
Yep.
Within one another. And we're just optimizing the space in there. So if we can fit something else into it, we're not going to charge you for that space. And that can lower the cost.
I'm just trying to think of ways to make this accessible, and also things that you might not consider going into it when your first try. Like it might take you your second or third iteration. Like, oh, why isn't this skull a broken skull? Like, and this is what the design for the trophy is. It's a skull with a candle burning on top of it, sitting on a bed of dice. I mean, like it's pretty cool, right? It looks even cooler as a broken skull. Yep.
Yeah, and that was sort of one of the. I mean, looking at the inspiration that you had, and looking around at what else was out there, and kind of being like, well, you don't need all of it, right? Like the important part of the skull is the face of it, and then you want to have it be gritty and kind of crazy, and that if you can creatively work the idea into something that will lower the costs. That's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, again, the only reason I'm mentioning it because I thought it was brilliant when you mentioned it. I'm like, yeah, why not? And also, I thought that would be something that I would have not thought of when I was getting my initial design done. And so when you're working with an artist who you may be like charging you per iteration or whatever, then you think 2 iterations ahead and make it a little bit easier to get into it.
Exactly. Yep.
Maybe I'm overthinking it. I just thought it was nice that we got that far in our back and forth talking about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it helped me to know, there might be someone else who's like, I don't want a broken skull.
And they might not, right?
That's fair. Yeah. And so as the designer, you always want to be, the customer knows best.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
and you may even your design may be inflexible. Like you might be looking to create a replica of a bust or something in your house or something that was important to a relative or something where there's nothing you can change, nothing you can do, and that just is what it is. But when you're creating something just springing from your mind, and you also want it to be functional and the best it can be, I'm thinking this is just a little bit of back and forth of the iterations of design. Try to get ahead of it and maybe think a couple steps ahead when you are commissioning someone to do this work for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you always want to be thinking, what are the possibilities? What's available? I think actually another interesting thing from my end was that I used a pre-made version of a skull for that part of it, and that cut down on a lot of the time I would have to do, a lot of extra sculpting to tweak that. I found a model file that in that case it's in ZBrush from the beginning. Just like as part of the program, they're like, here's a free skeleton that's in there. ZBrush is the program that I use to make that trophy. And so, that's another thing that's always available to anyone, regardless of your skill level, is that there's a lot of free resources out there on the internet that you can download and change and modify and use to. I guess it depends on the license that's involved with that said object, but a lot of it you can change and modify and use at your discretion.
I gotcha. Yeah. And, we talk about, my show is wargaming based and stuff, but this has applications on for table terrain, display boards, things that people can really use to enhance their hobby. And so I know that these ideas are in people's heads. And I thought it might be cool to do this series about how to get that idea from your head to the table in a physical form.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's fun. It's cool to hear what creative ideas someone else has, and kind of help them realize that.
Awesome, man. Well, Andrew, is it all right if I bring you on again, especially after we get a couple of these trophies in hand, and talk about the process of from after you get the file, how do you choose the material? Again, break it down as the next step.
Yep. Yeah, that would be wonderful. It's always fun talking to you.
And you come into Adepticon this year.
Yeah, we're still figuring out our plans, but yeah, Adepticon's awesome.
Make it. It was fun hanging out with you in Las Vegas.
Yep.
We'll have to do that again very soon.
We will, yeah.
All right, man. Well, hopefully I see you soon, and we'll definitely talk again. Especially as we see this stuff going through the phases, and again how to make it a reality for folks that have the same idea.
Cool. Thank you, Paul.
Have a good night.
Yep. You too.
FTN is brought to you by Bell of Lost Souls. Check out www.bols.org for the best daily hobby articles on the web.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special segment of Forge Narrative. My name is Paul. I'm joined today by Matthias Weeks.
How's it going, Paul?
Yo, man, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no problem. I apologize. I'm coming down with something.
Oh, that's all right. It's good to shake it off now before we get to Adepticon, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Absolutely.
If you can shake it off and just don't re-get it there.
Yeah, right. I've been lucky. I think only 1 year out of 15 or so have been sick.
So I think this is your 35th year doing Adepticon.
Yeah, I think so. 16, only halfway there.
That's still epic, though. That is absolutely amazing. You guys put on a fabulous convention. I know there's going to be something close to 4,000 people there that weekend coming up soon. So everybody's heard of it, but can you give me a brief description for people that may not have come yet, what to expect this year, if this is their first time, or things they can look forward to if they want to put it on their stop next year?
Sure. So, we're in the grand scheme of things, probably like I consider medium-sized convention. We're not Gen Con, but, we are drawing close to 4,000 people. So we have a wide variety of tabletop miniature games. That's our main focus. Over the years, we do dabble a little bit in board games. There are some role-playing games, some things like that. But generally, 90% of our focus is on tabletop miniature games, ranging the gamut from, of course, Warhammer to games like Blood and Plunder and Ethereum and a bunch of other newcomers on the scene every year. With Kickstarter and everything, there's more and more games coming out. So we try to support, everyone that we can. So we run tournaments, we run event games, there's demos everywhere. We have a large exhibitor hall with, I think, close to 100 companies attending this year. We have a full slate of hobby seminars, both hands-on and demonstration and lecture-based classes, from sculpting an orc bust to painting to airbrushing to, how to start a YouTube channel. I think there's close to 100 classes, including a large block of classes from Games Workshop that Duncan will be teaching. And then on top of that, you just layer in, we're just a big social gathering.
It's wall to wall. I don't want to skip over the gaming part just yet. It is wall to wall gaming. And I don't mean just demonstrations or vendors showing off their game. It's people playing games, either in organized events, tournaments, open gaming type stuff. It's from the lobby through to the mile long hallway going down to the giant exhibition hall. It's gaming. Yeah,
anyone who has attended Adepticon remember our previous location at the Westin. We got to the point where we were out in every hall and every corner. Things were getting, tight everywhere. And we moved into this new facility in Schaumburg, the Renaissance. And, the first year we didn't have all the space. The second year we started to creep up. And now we're starting to approach a similar problem we had at the Westin, on a much larger scale, which is, we got stuff in the hallway. We got, every square foot of those large ballrooms and exhibition halls, tabled row upon row of table, And, we do what we can to fill them up for all 4 days, games 7 a.m. to midnight, pretty much.
Yeah, so sorry to jump in there. On the social side, my show is largely focused on like competitive play, match play, going to tournaments, traveling to tournaments, and stuff like that. And Adepticon is one of those absolute destination tournaments, probably the destination tournament for social interactivity.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we really have embraced that for, I don't know, the past decade or so, once we got to the point where we became, kind of like an international event. We were drawing people from all over the world. We were drawing lots of special guests and, big names within the community or the gaming industry. And it's a great place to just show up and, see people you interact with mainly online, perhaps, through, podcasts, YouTube channels, forums, things like that. And also get a lot of time, FaceTime with Black Library authors, game designers, people like that. So we've done a lot to try to bring in social elements to the event also. We've try to end a lot of our big tournaments a little earlier to kind of leave the evenings free so people can kind of wind down, hang out, relax.
Go to Portillo's, get some hot dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. So
it's a must-have when I go up there.
Oh yeah,
I have to get
a lot of people
dogs
think that.
And some pizza from Giordano's. On the social aspect of it too, you guys have an open painting area where people can come and set up shop to paint a bit. You've got some stellar, well-known painters there at that table, almost manning it 24/7. They give tips. People are talking and having a good time, fixing miniatures that may have maybe taken a tumble in their games or whatever. But it's like everything links back into the hobby that we all love, which is this some kind of wargaming of some kind of board gaming, whatever.
Oh yeah, that area, James and Kathy Wapple have really taken that, along with Damon Drescher and his crew on the hobby seminar side. So yeah, we have kind of this area where we have 4 or 5 classrooms that have seminars going on all 4 days, but right in the middle is just 32 feet a table, 60 feet a table, I can't remember, but everybody just sort of hangs out there, works on stuff, gets pointers. That's kind of just organically grew out of that hobby seminar side over the last 4 or 5 years and has now become a fixture.
It's really fun to walk by there and see what people are working on. Because, it's Golden Demon type stuff sometimes you see there. I don't mean everybody there is doing that, but you guys do host the Crystal Brush, and so there are, a lot of high quality painters in the area, even if they're just coming for that competition.
Right. So, the combination of us hosting the Crystal Brush as well as having these hobby seminars, there's a nice relationship there as we get a lot of people coming over, particularly from Europe and stuff, who want to participate. But, hey, they also can teach some classes and, help offset some of their travel costs or whatever. So that's been a really symbiotic relationship.
Well, it just adds to the environment, if you ask me. It's part of what the blood of the event is at this point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I know, again, we talked about all the tournaments and the events and stuff, but I'm talking about like things you could come and do, even if you had no desire to compete seriously in any one of these events. There's still, I'm not even exaggerating here, 100 other things you could be doing. Yeah,
I think that's 16 years on. I think there's still, for some people, the misconception that Adepticon is a tournament, and that's it. And you're right. You wouldn't have to play in a single competitive event. You could easily fill 4 days with hanging out and checking out new games. We have a huge board game library that's free with a badge. And there's tons of stuff to do.
It is. It's absolutely awesome. And there's several bars located around the venue.
Yeah, there are. And we have the beer cart, which I'm sure some people have experienced. The Renaissance has worked with us the last couple of years. They have kind of an old-timey pedal bike that's just full of beer, and then a lot of our sponsors and vendors will give them stuff to also give out. So, hey, buy a beer and, get a small box of miniatures or card game or something like that. So that's been a big hit.
Oh, I can't argue with that.
No, most people can't. No.
You guys are also kind of known for your swag bag for tournament registration.
Yeah, that's...
It's been neat to see that thing grow over the years.
is neat the word I want to use? It's amazing. I mean, we have such great support from sponsors and vendors, but it is a beast to organize. Greg Sparks and his crew who really take that management of that and really try to, put some reins on it, because it is massive. And every year we do it, we're scrambling like right down to the wire to get that last bag stuffed before we try to open registration Wednesday night. So yeah,
a lot of work for you guys, but this whole thing's a lot of work for you guys. I mean, it's easy for us to forget that, just being a consumer of the experience.
Oh yeah, almost every interview I've ever given, anytime anyone talks about this, I'm always like, someday this is going to break me. Someday I just can't do this anymore. It is an insane amount of work.
Well, I'm hoping that when you get there and you got people like, us that are going, it kind of helps refuel you a little bit. I mean, that's what I get when I do, not anything to this scale, but, seeing it all come about and going, yes, this is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the grind leading up to the event, like, almost breaks you, and then the event happens, and you get refreshed because all of a sudden I'm really amped about hobby projects or new games, or, all these ideas get floated at the event, like, hey, let's all buy this and do this. And so I always get refreshed right after the event, and and then I get a nice long break, and then it starts over again.
Hey, well, I mean, it's a fun time. I've been going for the majority of these years. And again, you see, just like you said, you see people you may only see once a year, or you may chat with online. You get to hang out and play a game that you would have never played before. Maybe you find out it's somebody's favorite game and they want to show it to you. I mean, the vendors, especially as this has been kind of picking up over time, they treat it a bit like a trade show. So they bring out their best and finest and coolest stuff. And it's not just Games Workshop with Forge World, although that's there and that's awesome. It's Fantasy Flight. You tell me, it's a bunch of vendors.
Oh yeah. I mean, in fact, I think maybe by the time this airs, we should have a vendor exhibitor list up on the website. But yeah, it's 100 exhibitors now. And we've have great relationships with some of the biggest names in the game industry at this point. So a prime example would be, and wasn't necessarily engineered this way from the start, but it just happened to be that Star Wars Legion will be debuting. Adepticon is the official launch event for Star Wars Legion. So it's really cool to be part of something like that. Games Workshop does their big early preview event every year now.
Now, last year was the first time they did that, and I don't think any of us knew kind of what to expect. And I mean, I was surprised in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the re-engagement of Games Workshop with the community has been extremely welcome, and not only from us as an event, but of course just from people who play their games. So I mean, for them to do things like that is fantastic. Give people first glance at a game, or like last year it was Shadespire, right? You actually got to sit down and play a game with that.
The next door over was filled with Shadespire tables of people giving demos.
Yeah. So this year, they'll be doing something similar. They're going to even bring more of that Warhammer community into the event. They'll be live streaming again some of the Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k events. They're also running the Shadespire Grand Clash, and they're also teaching several seminars, and I think they're also going to have kind of like a Warhammer community hangout, meet and greet kind of area too, where they'll be all weekend. So
very nice.
Yeah, lots. I mean, if you got questions for Games Workshop, or you want to, interact with them, that's the place to do it.
It has grown from what was a tournament 16 years ago to a full-on convention, and that's what I tell people when people ask, like, what is Adepticon? Well, Adepticon is the closest thing to a full-on convention that our hobby has.
It completely volunteer run too, which is still one of its greatest strengths. Now, there's a core group of us who do way too much, probably, but it's still 98% volunteer run. Most of our events, if they're not actually being run by the companies that manufacture the games, they're being run by champions of that game system. people who have come to us over the years and say, I still really love War Master. Can I run a small War Master event? And it's like, if we have the space and we have the opportunity, we're going to try to fit games like that in as long as we can.
You guys do take open submission for events, for people to run events. I mean, you schedule them if they're scheduled, and I'm sure there's some prioritization that goes on, but you do entertain people's ideas.
We do. This year it wasn't as we weren't able to do that as much as we had the last few years, simply because once we sit down and sort of schedule these big events that we know are happening, like Star Wars System Open, the big 40k events, the big Sigmar events, the War Machine events. Once we have all of those sort of blocked out, we find ourselves having less and less available space for, other smaller games. So we've tried to leave one of the ballrooms upstairs available for like historical event games, single day, small, big robot battle games, whatever it might be, right? Just so we can have that sort of mix of events where you don't have to come in and dedicate yourself to an 8 or 12 hour tournament. We want to be able to make sure that there are, 2 to 4 hour events running all weekend long, that, a lot of them bring material. Like, you don't even have to show up with models, right? I mean, you go play that crazy Space Hulk game up on the second floor. I think they're also running a 3D Zombicide Black Plague this year. So you get to play these games with, great terrain, great models, and you have to bring nothing, right? You don't even have to bring dice probably. So, I mean, I think that's a great draw for a lot of those events. I mean, I would love to play, say, Blood and Plunder, but I don't have, 6 to 12 months to paint a force right now. So, but if I can go to Adepticon and get a game in and get a feel for it, then, maybe that gets me motivated.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. By the time this airs, registration might be closed, or some events might be events might be full.
Several events are already full. Yeah, we're closing this Friday.
If that occurs, or if it's if we miss or get in before the deadline of the show released, or people don't hear it until that happens, how do people still take part in the event or get on the wait list for things they might want to do or whatever?
Right. So we'll close here. I think it's Friday. The 24th. I think something like that. But this coming Friday, registration closes. At that point, we usually try to lock things down because we have to get badges printed and get all of that stuff. We have a little bit of wiggle room to iron out some registration issues, but not much. One of the kind of bigger draws, I think, for Adepticon is we don't require you to purchase any type of weekend badge unless you're participating in an event, a hobby seminar, entering the Crystal Brush, or you want to check out games from the board game library or something like that. So the convention is open to the public. So particularly if you're local and you just want to come by and check out Adepticon on Saturday, do some shopping in the exhibitor hall, whatever you want to do, you don't have to buy a badge. There's no fee for things like that. So our hope is that people will come, check it out, like what they see, and come back next year and, play in a tournament or an event. So don't despair. I mean, there's, like you just said earlier, there's 1,000,001 things to do. You could come in and demo and shop and that's always going to be there, always going to be available. You can't get locked out of that sort of stuff.
And you might be able to sneak onto a wait list if you're there when the event starts.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, any event over 64 players, I don't think has ever, started with all 64 players there. Right. So
depends on how early in the morning it's supposed to start.
And the later you go on in the weekend too, right? Like by Saturday and Sunday, people aren't getting up early. And so, I mean, there's always, 10% no-shows or something like that. And I can think of several years, like say for the championships on the 40k side, where we sold out 256 players, 221 show up. We take everyone available that's waiting there to get in from a wait list, and we still only run the event at 247 or something like that, right? So, if you're on a wait list and you have your stuff and you're ready to play, it's always worth checking in with the event, prior to the start, because there's a good chance on big events you can get in.
That's understandable. Now, I want to talk about some of the tournaments that really shot off last year that I don't think people quite expected there to be quite as many people playing, and that's like Age of Sigmar.
Yeah. Age of Sigmar's had an incredible, recovery. I think it might be the biggest Warhammer fantasy event we've ever run. Just prior to Age of Sigmar dropping, that was probably our biggest one, and then Age of Sigmar had a couple of years of rebounding and growing pains, and now they're back, and I think I'm almost positive it's the most people we've ever had playing on that side of the convention.
You think that everything they're doing has reignited interest in it? I mean, that's obviously the case. It's become I think people are starting to get warm to the idea of playing with these models again.
Yeah, absolutely. And the General's handbooks pretty much brought most things back in line with what people were looking for tournament play. So
I'm excited about it. Again, as we get closer to Adepticon, I am painting right now. I'm actually painting a Demon Prince, a tank, and another in a jet. I mean, for 3 different armies.
What are you playing in?
The team and the singles is what I planned. We focus on the team. It really is the crown jewel of 40K events, if you ask me.
We absolutely view it that way. I mean, I think there was a point in time where, we're focusing maybe too much on the singles, 40K singles event. And we sort of just paused and stopped and said, what are we doing? Like, we want to run that event for sure, and we want it to be good. But at the end of the day, the team tournament's absolutely our flagship event. And that was the year we switched the team tournament to a 2-day format.
Yep.
And just to because we just really wanted to give it the time, the air it needed to breathe, right? And it was just cramming that into one day was not doing it any favors.
Well, moving it up, increasing the number of teams, and still wanting it to be a competitive event, and it is. It's like the softest competitive event out there. And I don't mean to say that. That's not negative at all. Sure. It's like, it's not just about winning your games. You really have to bring your full-on hobby experience to bear at this event to be a champion.
Yeah, and it's every year it's fun to watch people take different paths, right? Like, some people might come and really go for that sort of spirit award, which has no bearing whatsoever on points or your standing or anything like that. And they don't even care. They're there, and they have costumes or they have props or whatever it is, and they're just there to have a good time. They win a few games, awesome, but not their focus, And then there's other people on the opposite coin or opposite side of that coin who are just like there to win, or there to slay as many warlords as possible.
That's a fun one to get, like, especially after you're you're about to enter your third game and you lost those 2, but you did take out all the enemy warlords and protected yours. Well, now your victory conditions have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think increasing, adding a 5th round to that, which essentially means that each team is getting 10 game results. It's a much better spread of scoring in terms of, a competitive event. And then, we do factor very heavily into themes like spirit and theme and appearance, and some smaller awards like headhunters and some of the secondary objectives who can claim the most. Yeah,
last year we brought a guy into the team event with us. He never played in the team event before. Now he's hooked. It's just a wonderful time. It is unlike any other team event in the country. And I love team competition, and there are various other formats out there that are also awesome. Like the ATC is an amazing event. I absolutely love that too. But still, the way that the Adepticon team tournament comes together, it's camaraderie with your team because you're playing side by side with a buddy. It's camaraderie with the other teams, because they're there, they're showing out their full on hobby. You got people with some going for the spirit side of it. It just adds so much. And then you look out, and then it's 110 teams or something?
132 this year.
I can't do the math. That's like 14,000 people playing 40K.
Something like that. Yeah. 132 teams. That's over 500 and something.
Yeah, that's a giant event.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And That it's 528, right? Yeah. So that's by far the largest event we've ever run. We've done 128 teams, or at least we pre-sold 128 teams. I don't know how many we actually ran that year. Or we did that a couple of years in a row, I think. So this is definitely the biggest team tournament ever, and there's going to be so much amazing stuff just to look at that event alone.
Yeah.
People's display boards.
If you come for any
armies.
event to see, come to see that one. That is the one you want to be a spectator for if you're not playing.
Yeah, because there's 500 plus people out on the floor. Several of them are, costumes are kind of going crazy, and then you have all these amazing display boards. Some people really put a lot of energy into those, and I've seen some just crazy stuff there. Like I think about how long it would take me to paint the army they're playing with, and then let alone also build this 4x6 smoking ruin with dry ice and
then make
lights.
The banner, the costume. It's it's crazy. I mean, it is. It's inspiring. That's the thing. That's one of the events that you will walk away from thinking, I need to build something like that when I get home.
Yeah, and 16 years on down the road, watching the same people come back and do that year over year, like to still have that drive through various editions of the game and the ups and downs of wargaming and all of that, just be there every year coming out with something new, not even just, hey, I'm just going to bring the army I had last year because, hey, it's painted and done, No, like a lot of people won't do that. Like they view Adepticon as like the reason to get into something new. And the team tournament's a great format for that, since it's, 1,000 points, or do we up it this year?
1,000 points per. Well, I hope you didn't. I gotta paint some more.
1,000 points per player, which is a good intro for some an army you may build up later for singles events or something like that. So
yeah, we pretty much painted an entire new army, an entire new 4,000 points, 2 armies for this event. But because you start looking at the format, you want to compete on the hobby side, you want to compete on the battle side, and it's whatever. It's a good excuse to buy more models and paint them.
yeah. We'll continue to manufacture that excuse for you as long as we can.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. Is there anything else you'd like to cover before we get out of here?
One interesting thing is, this year Games Workshop also did this Warhammer Heroes event, right? So the Warhammer community staff identified hobbyists from around the world, and they are going to be hosting that Warhammer Heroes award ceremony and meet and greet and everything at Adepticon this year too. So that's kind of one more engagement on the community side from Games Workshop that, one, we haven't seen it before, and two, it's an honor for Adepticon to be involved in such a thing like that. So, we got that, we got Star Wars Legion premiering. We have several new companies coming this year. The Kickstarter being crazy the way it is, there's all kinds of new stuff coming out. So. Be tons of just probably stuff most people haven't even seen. We'll be able to experience at the event. We have, of course, we've talked about the 40k events, and there's also the 30k events. There's a huge 30k side to Adepticon. They have their own dedicated room this year.
Oh, that's
cool. So there'll be lots of cool stuff going on there. Necromunda's back. We've got several Necromunda events, some Shadow War Armageddon even. There's lots and lots of stuff going on, and X-Wing, Destiny, all over the place as far as the eye can see. So,
man, I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to catch up with you while I'm there. I know you'll be running around doing 100 things, but I'll at least try to say what's up.
Yeah, for sure.
And then after you've had your break after the event, maybe do a little debrief with us.
Yeah. I always kind of like looking back. Puts me in a good frame of mind.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot for coming on, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you. It's
like
1 month and counting.
Yeah. Oh, it's like three weeks?
20. It's 1 month. 1 month.
Oh.
I'll see you in a month. Yep.
Oh, I'll have a little more time to paint.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get another 1,000 points done.
Have a good night.
All right. See you, Paul.
Is your garage full of dusty old models? Head on over to Frontline Gaming's secondhand shop. We buy, sell, and trade used Warhammer miniatures daily. Head on over to frontlinegaming.org for more details.
Hey everybody, we are back. Hope you enjoyed those segments. I know we haven't talked a lot about tactics and stuff this episode, so I do want to touch on some of those things. And Val, you're the one going to the tournament the soonest.
Oh my.
And that's like this weekend. I mean, by the time people hear this, you'll probably be rolling dice.
That's actually true. Or maybe I'll be listening to this on the way to the tournament in the morning.
Hopefully so, getting you all pumped.
Yeah, nothing like the sound of my own voice, Paul.
Maybe you should give yourself a checklist of things to remember now, so when you listen to it, you won't forget them.
Or maybe I've just been secretly encoding some subliminal messaging to get me extra fired up this whole time.
Drink more Ovaltine.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm really gearing up. As I was mentioning, it was a bittersweet moment packing up the boys, but as team captain of Canada's ETC team instructed us that our job is to go out and try and win. So I thought the best way to do that would be to immediately acquire 7 Flying Hive Tyrants and 4 Maulwalks, which I'm not sure if you're aware is really awesome and fun to play with too. So yeah, it's kind of cool going from, actually I have way more drops now than I ever have in 8th edition. However, I have just so many fewer models. They're all big, they're mean, they can do something in every phase of the game. They don't start on the table. Yeah, it's really cool.
So 7 Flying Hive Tyrants and how many Maulwalks?
Well, I'm actually so this list is 100% a net list, but I'm outspoken on the internet saying that's okay. You can definitely net list out there. This is a list that went out and won was called the Caledonian Uprising in the UK, and it was 7 Flying Hive Tyrants, 4 Maulwalks, 2 Rippers, and I believe 7 Mycetic Spores, or Meiotic Spores, one of the two. And essentially what it allows you to do is just deploy the Spores and the Rippers and present the opponent with it's basically a null deploy. They have nothing they can shoot at. The Spores themselves don't give up any victory points. And then at the start of your turn, you can bring in all your tyrants and they go and do work. The Maulwalks themselves are just kind of big, annoying monsters. They can pop up within an inch, but they're not able to actually charge at a deep strike. Mm-hmm. So they sort of pop up. Maybe they deal some mortal wounds to nearby units, and then they're standing there. And it's kind of like that episode of The Simpsons
nearby
where
Dark Reapers, and then they're just standing there.
They're just standing there, or they can, as long as
after they kill
Eldar player
Dark
doesn't
Reapers, that's fine with me.
As long as the Eldar player doesn't realize, all you have to do is stand on a box, and you're invulnerable from Maulwalks. But whatever. They're kind of like the dude in the white suit in that episode of The Simpsons when the Yakuza are fighting at the Simpsons house, and the guy in the white shirt's just standing there, and Homer really wants to know what he's about to do. That's the Maulwalks. They're just standing there for a turn, and I think people kind of get outfox themselves about them. It's awesome. But even if you're in a situation, say you're playing an opponent that has a lot of table presence, they're able to zone out the board really well. I don't know, I'm just trying to think. Maybe something like Poxwalkers.
Elysians or something that can come down and checkerboard the whole board.
Yeah, just
to make
really block you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's totally a possibility. And in that case, you can start the Hive Tyrants on the board. They've got, their toughness 7. That was a big change in the codex. They're 12 wounds, and they got a 4-up invuln with a 3-up regular save. So they're really durable. And if you have them in the Leviathan Hive Fleet, they get a 6-up Feel No Pain on there as well. So that works out to be over 7 Hive Tyrants. If they're all Leviathan, that's more than an extra Hive Tyrant just in Feel No Pain saves. Mm-hmm. So the durability is pretty intense. Where I'm a little nervous about them is the fact that, you kind of cap out at strength 6. So there's not
on their weapons, like are you running them with shooty?
No, there's only one in my list. There's only one Double Devourer. So Double Devour, the Canadian Hive Tyrant. So that's 24 strength 6, 0 AP shots. The rest of them, though, have I think they're monstrous rending claws. It's a free upgrade for the Hive Tyrant. It gives them reroll wounds, and on 6s it's -6 AP or something stupid.
Is there a reason you didn't go more shooty stuff? Was it a points issue, or do you think that just doesn't play into the strategy?
Well, actually, so my concern was basically hard targets, things like your Fire Raptor, being able to pop a transport shooting. So the wrinkle that I added to the list was I actually dropped 2 of the Malwalks, and I'm bringing Hive Guard, but not the popular choice. I'm going with the hipster choice of shock cannons, and that's actually a weapon. It's strength 7, D3 shots, -1 AP, and I believe on a 4-up, it deals a mortal wound against a vehicle. So they are able to, sort of take big chunks out
whittle
of
down
things that are
rhinos
very
and
hard.
things that would be annoying to deal with, wave serpents or whatever.
But, you're doing 63 shots, and you can double shoot them with a Tyranid stratagem because they're infantry, and they can also surf in on a Malwalk using a Jormungandr stratagem. So it's it's pretty command point intensive, but at the same time, this list doesn't really rely on command points too much because the power is all in the models. So you can afford to do something like that. So they could pop up, for example, and crack a transport. That might be filled with berserkers that you'd be worried about, or the wave serpent that's got 3 units of dark reapers or whatever. Because what you need to be able to do is, well, at least this is what I think. I'd like to be able to open up transports and shooting so that I can immediately charge them. Because the other thing about flying hive tyrants is because of adrenal glands, they can they get +1 to their move and charge distance. So they only need an 8 coming in.
Adrenal glands is such a cost-effective upgrade. I think it needs to be on everybody.
Yeah, it's pretty wonderful. And on the hive tyrants, I've got toxin sacs as well. So I believe on 6s to wound, they're doubling their damage. So there's lots of things where they can sort of juice their damage output, even though on paper in close combat especially, they don't look like they're doing too much because they have a limited amount of attacks. I think it's 4 attacks. So yeah, but I mean with 7 of them, their durability. And I'm hoping with this Hive Guard, adds a little bit of shooting support. Also gives sort of maybe a bit of a MacGuffin for the.
Are they all
opponent
winged? Are they all winged Hive Tyrants?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
No, my Hive Tyrants aren't just going to schlep around.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah, come on. Actually, when I was building it, because a friend of mine was selling this list, and it's something he built, I think, at the end of 6th edition. It was like, Flying Hive Tyrants was the Tyranid list.
Yep. And
I think he sold it. He started trying to sell it before the Tyranid Codex came out. And, it didn't sell for a long time. And then I bought it. And like the next week, that guy won the tournament with this list that I just bought, built, and pretty much painted. So that's fantastic for me. I needed to build one more. And so that's what I've been working on. And I'm just blown away by how much of a flying hive tyrant is just wings. Like they look like such a beefy model, when you're looking at them on the table, but there's so little to these models.
You're making me think about it. I got a few hive tyrants over there on the shelf right now.
Yeah, just go take the wings off of one and look at it. It's so disappointing.
He's just a skinny little dude. He's just a snaky, skinny dude. There's nothing to him.
My opponent was working on his at the tournament I was at last weekend. He was still working on his, so like it kept falling over. So he just took the wings off of it. I guess he had them magnetized or something. And then I was like, that's it. He's not nearly as imposing without the wings. That's for sure.
It's that face. Yeah. He's got that really creepy looking face.
And all of my guys have the Swarm Lord horn on them, so they look extra ferocious. It's pretty striking army actually. I really like it. I hope I can match the colors, the red, because they're sort of a red and black. So hopefully I can get a good match.
That's good. That's a good aggressive color combo.
Mm-hmm. I think it's like a quasi behemoth color scheme, but I got to find some way to differentiate them because I'm running 3 different hive fleets. Oh, the other thing about Tyranids, and this, I'm running this power build, but I've been outspoken on other shows too, and all over the place. I really think Tyranids are a fantastic book. And I'm going to be excited to see maybe more committed players taking them to tournaments because I think there's all kinds of other builds that you can use with Tyranids. That's not just the pure power of this. Specifically, one thing I want to talk about was the Kronos Hive Fleet and their stratagem, which allows you to basically anything that's within 24 inches of a Kronos model for one command point. You force an opponent to take a psychic test on 1d6. So for some of those more tricky, Eldar powers, that's an automatic shutdown. So that's really massive. If you can basically guarantee that, that unit of Shining Spears isn't going to
guide is going to fail or something. I mean, that's it's pretty clutch. And then on top of that, if you use their Warlord trait, if
if a psyker with an 18 inches of Kronos Warlord fails a psychic test, they take D3 mortal wounds. So it's pretty awesome. I'm very excited. I hope I remember all of my rules and I can play fast and have fun.
That's you study the book right before every game. Look at it. The cards. I'm not a big proponent of game accessories all the time. Sometimes I feel like they kind of get in the way. But in this edition, all those cards and the tactical decks or whatever, pretty useful.
Actually, if I could share a tournament hack that I think has been really helpful with me. Maybe I sound cool, calm, and collected in podcast form, but at the tabletop, I can be a little scatterbrained and twitchy. And so what I've started bringing was essentially it's a clipboard. So it's just a plastic. It's like one of those clear plastic clipboards that you can sort of slide papers into. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, you can get them at like a Business Depot or what have you. And so what I'll do is I'll put a cheat sheet on the back side of it with all of my relevant, stats that I need to be able to see. I've got some dice odds on there. A lot of times I'll even have the missions like summarized on the back, so I can have, if I'm in the middle of a game.
Dice odds is good. I had not thought about that.
It's I just want to feel like a offensive coordinator of a football team. So
Sure.
I've got some cool stuff on the back, and then on the sort of the front side, usually what I'll carry there is a summarized list of my stratagems. So what I feel like, even with the cards, is it's a lot of noise because most of the stratagems in there you're not using either because they're ineffective or they're specific to a different sub-faction, or nothing in your army really benefits from them. So I just edit out all that stuff so that's not cluttering my limited brain capacity. So I know exactly, and I also organize it by phase. So when I'm looking, I know when I have to execute various stratagems. Eventually it becomes more secondhand, but I'm used to the orcs. So any edge I can give myself.
Your one stratagem
I have one stratagem. So it's been a lot of fun to have all these rules to play with, but it's definitely a learning curve. Even in a list that's so simple as two different data sheets really. But the last thing I like to use is instead of a dry erase marker, I use a wet erase marker. And so what that does is if you use a dry erase on this, well, it is fancy, because you can write in it and then within a second it sets and you can't smudge it off. So like I'll write down my opponent's, some quick notes about what models in my opponent's army might have different psychic powers or traits or special things, and then between rounds I just use a wet nap or something like that to just wipe it clear, and then I'm on to the next game. So that's been like a huge tool for me that I hope someone can get some use out of.
That's actually, that's nice. If you find yourself getting kind of jumbled up or forgetful, like how many times do you walk away from the table going, crap, if I just used that stratagem.
That's every game for me, every single game. And what I do, I take all the stratagem cards that I can use, that the army I have built can actually use, or possibly like if the situation, like I'm not going to take kill shot, I don't have the weapon, so that card doesn't come out, So I take all the cards I have and I have them in front of me, and that way I'm always just kind of flipping through those and looking at those as the situation unfolds. We're like, okay, I can plan on this, and if I think I'm getting ready to use it, I'll kind of set it to the front, and I'm doing that. But even then, I still forget stuff. So.
Yeah, because you got also like on those cards, you got all the flavor text. You've got a lot of information that you don't need for the game moment that you still have to process. I think 40k, what makes it so much fun for me to play and ultimately really, really hard is like all the decision points. If you think of moving a third unit of 30 models, you're actually deciding where each one of those models is going. So you can get really jammed up really easily. So any way that you can limit the amount of decisions you have to make and the amount of things you have to think about, just edit those out. So that way it'll speed you up too.
That's one of the ways that I build my army. Like my Blood Angel army list is built around using 3 or 4 stratagems the most. And I know when to use those. And most of them are pregame. So I don't have to necessarily have that be something that I'm stumbling with in a very like critical moment in the game. Yeah,
it's just really good to get noise out of your life in all phases of the game as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a pretty good tip. Is the clipboard? I think you had some pretty good takeaways there, especially even things like dice odds.
One thing I had actually on my, and I'm going to maybe embarrass myself, but here we go. On my orc one for the LVO, because I'm running units of, I had 2 units of 30 boys. Sometimes I can get up to 40 boys. You can easily buff them to 5 attacks. So, once you get to odd numbers, and you're on turn 4 or 5 and you're trying to rush through things, I was finding just doing that mental math really hard. And I had a multiplication table actually on there. So I could just say, 26 boys, 4 attacks is X amount, So, anything where I felt I was getting jammed up and I just needed a quick reference, that's what I'd do. And like with the multiplication table, I combine that with the dice app, the Assault dice app. I don't know if you've ever plugged that on the show. It's fantastic. But with those 2 things, I was able to cruise through my very large combats that, can bog down really easy.
I've already figured out my Christmas present for you, Val. While you were talking, on Amazon, I can get you one of those like NFL quarterback play the wrist things where they got all their plays on them.
It's on the
like,
wrist.
You can actually,
the sweatbands or whatever.
$7. They're $7 on Amazon.
You can buy those.
You can totally buy those, and you can have all your stratagems on them and everything, and you can be at the table and just be like, boop, pull it up.
I already wear the Peyton Manning loincloth hand towel just down the front of my pants.
This is the next step. This right here.
The next step.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Man, you're ready to go. Accessories.
I've literally I'm a bit all over the place sometimes, and I've literally considered a holster for my measuring tape because I will put that thing down anywhere and completely forget. I lose so much time just trying to find my measuring tape. So there you go. These are the struggles I personally have.
That's not just you though. That's everybody. How many times have you looked down and you've had your opponent's tape measure?
And knew you just had. Oh my goodness! I have not to digress here, but I have a story. I'm painting this Sakaran that I was talking about earlier, and the sponsons are magnetized. I did not magnetize them; they came that way. But it's cool that they are magnetized. But I did not do it. And I'm painting the tank, and I go to set it down to pick up the Fire Raptor again, because I'm going back and forth between things as things dry or whatever. And then I go back to pick up the tank again, and one of the sponsons is gone. Like,
what was it stuck under?
I know that I haven't moved from the seat. Like I have not remotely even moved from where I'm sitting, and I couldn't find the sponson. And I'm thinking, God, it's got to be here. But then I searched for 2 or 3 minutes, and then panic starts to set in. And now I've totally screwed my team because I've lost a heavy bolter sponson.
Is this to be continued, or did you find the thing?
No, okay, I found it. To make a long story short, it had fallen in the water cup.
I was gonna guess it had like shot up and stuck to like your lamp. It was just like on the inside of your lamp.
No, somehow it fallen into my paint water cup. This is like my backup water cup that used to be my decal water till my paint water got too dingy. Then I switched it. It became the paint water cup, and now it's dingy enough to obfuscate a heavy sponson.
If you change your paint water as often as I do, that could have been lost for months.
It was one of those things. It's like I'm in full on panic mode. Like it can't be in this cup. Oh, there it is.
I did it with I was magnetizing a part the other day, and I set the magnet down, and then I was tweaking the model with my hobby knife. Then I set the hobby knife down. I went to pick the magnet back up, and I could not find it to save my life. And I had not realized I had went over the magnet with the hobby knife, and it was on the underside of the blade.
Been there. Definitely been there.
I was freaking out.
Oh, sorry, not to get us out of our tournament preparedness talk.
This is tournament prep. These are things that are going to happen to you in tournament prep, and you got to get ready.
You can't spare those lost minutes and the stress and anxiety of trying to find that missing item when you're just rushing and trying to hustle as much as you can.
Yeah. It's being considerate to your opponent too. Like when you're on your third time looking for your tape measure,
and you see him going, Judge.
Yeah, when you've legitimately lost it, like it's just how you live your life. And they're over there like, come on, man. It's like your second movement phase and you've lost this thing 3 times.
I went to, was it my first year at Scarab? Or I can't remember. I was down at Scarab, not this year, I guess this past year. And I had gotten the super cool overpriced Age of Sigmar tape measure because I play Stormcast and it looks really cool when you're playing Sigmar. But I took it with me because I was like, well, nobody else will have this. So if I set it on the table, I know that it will be mine. And so I'm down there playing a game and I look over and my opponent has my tape measure. And I'm like, oh man, I think you got my tape measure. And he's like, no. And he's like, he pulls out his Sigmar tape measure. He's like, I brought this that way nobody else would have it, so I would know it's mine. And I set mine. I found mine and set it on the table. I was like, we got a problem here because I'm not sure whose is whose at this point. And so we spent like 5 minutes trying to figure out whose tape measure was whose.
Struggles. The struggle is real.
Well, I remember I was leaving a big tournament, and I might lose my own measuring tape, but I actually wound up basically stealing someone else's on my way out of it. It was one of those servo skulls. Have you ever seen this thing?
Yes.
It is a servo skull. And I just saw this guy playing with it, and I like stopped what I was doing. I put down my arm, and I'm like, "Excuse me, is that a measuring tape?" He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Where did you get that?" And he could tell I was so enamored with it. And it's a Canadian tournament, so he's just like, well, you can have it, man. And and I was like, no, I'm not just going to take your measuring tape. He's like, no, man, I've got like one at home. You can have it. And I'm like, no, I'm not just going to take your measuring tape. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, how about I give you $5, which is like just the worst offer ever. And he's like, sure. So I've got a coveted Mechanicum or AdMech servo skull measuring tape.
It looks cool. I've seen where people have painted them up and just made them look real cool. But
I also realized that I lied to you earlier because right above my purity seals is my servo skull measuring tape. I figured. So there you go. It's the third item that I display.
Those things we give out
for my 40k live.
They're like winning awards, we getting bounties or whatever. That's just one of the things that we give out awards in Atlanta. It's not participation awards. It's like engagement awards. They're really cool.
Yeah, the little bounties that we get, you get the little purity seals and stuff for them. That's half the fun of going. I know people who have tanked games in order to win. They've totally hosed themselves just to win a little purity seal and to get a bounty.
So put it on your bag, whatever. It makes the experience more rich. We're rambling a bit, and I apologize. I know this has been a really long show with the other 2 segments in between. Val, it's really cool to hear about your NID tournament list.
I think the people wanted to know more about my servo skull measuring tape, but you're welcome.
That'll be a follow-up. We'll put that in the show notes if you'd like to follow the continuing adventures of the servo skull measuring tape.
We'll do a YouTube video on that.
we can do it. I can use it like the garden gnome memes. I'll just take pictures of it everywhere. You'll just come out of your house as a servo skull on top of your car.
Heck yeah.
That'd be cool.
Not creepy at all.
I know not 40k related at all, but have you guys seen that new Morathai model for the Daughters of Cain for Age of Sigmar?
Yes. You mean the soon-to-be Fulgrim Demon Prince?
Yeah, you mean Lady Fulgrim?
Yeah, the soon-to-be proxy for anything you want to be amazing looking.
The Daughters of Cain looks... I mean, have you seen like the snake...
Like many ones,
dudes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They're not dudes. The infantry ladies.
Hey, somebody buy my Stormcast because I am about to build a Daughters of Cain army because that is bonkers looking.
Sweet. Well, guys, it's been fun talking to y'all. See y'all next week.
Nighty-night, world.
Let's talk again soon. Bye, guys.
I see dead people.